If you're wondering why we're at an abandoned racetrack, long derelict, with foliage coming out of it like it's a disaster movie, well, it's because we're looking at something that's very, very old. Specifically, one of the OG sports cars. A car that, at the time, and one that I still hold today in high standards. I'm talking about the 9F. Now that is how an all-wheel drive sports car, supercar, you want to call it, should drive. When this came out in 2013, this was legendary. Such a great car. Even today, it still gives you the sensation that you're driving something special. But it didn't cost a special amount. It was less than 200 grand. It's a great car for the money. It's not fast at all, by any stretch. But it's good fun. It can slide, it's got a great noise, and it even comes as a spider. But now, finally, after 9 years, Obey has decided to make a replacement. And well, the exterior has certainly changed a lot. It's much more modern, more aggressive, more angles than the 9F, but it still keeps the silhouette and the spirit of that design. It is very well done. What was not so well done was the marketing department, because in typical German fashion, the 9F successor is the 10F. Does that mean it has a bigger engine? Well, no and yes. Because it has the same basic power plant. However, it went from 660 horsepower to over 700. And it's still got the all-wheel drive. So the question now is that with more power and the same basic principle, will it handle worse? Because if you don't change that much from 2013, but you get a lot more power and some new styling, will it ruin the handling? Well, not really, no. It's definitely got the rear-wheel drive bias that the original one had, so it is surprisingly easy to chuck this thing about, and it does have active rear aero to try and give some grip to the back end, but I don't really think it does very much. I think it's just there for show, sort of like their electric sedan that we looked at a few weeks ago. Because this thing, it definitely is oversteered compared to the modern cars in this class, like the Italian RSX, for example. It doesn't quite have the same plant to nature. Certainly in the middle of a corner, if you lift off, it can cause the whole mid-engine oversteer, and that's not really ideal on some corners, because this does not have the most sophisticated aerodynamics in the world. It's not going to have that same turn-in as other vehicles. So if you lift off, well, you have a very high probability of losing the back end. But you know what? I quite like this car. It's not my favorite supercar, but I think it looks really aggressive. I think it really has the sound dialed in. It sounds a little similar to the 9F, a little too similar sometimes, but it's a lot more playful because of that extra horsepower. So if you want to, it is a lot easier at sliding about. But you do have to be a little weary of that oversteer tendency. It does sometimes like to grip up and then lose, and then it just is a little bit unpredictable when you start sliding, and that's not really very fun. You're not really going to have a problem with that ever in your entire life, like exactly as I just said there, because if you have this car, you're either going to be driving it around the shops at 20 miles an hour to say ooh, ah, as people walk by, or you're going to have a track going as fast as possible, and then it becomes really fun. it's not the fastest, it's not the best handling, but it's still pretty good, and it's a definite improvement over the 9F, and that's really all you want at the end of the day in this car. Granted, it is almost 10 times the price, actually it's probably over 10 times the price of the 9F, and I'm not really sure you get 10 times the value money, especially considering the interior doesn't really look any different. The seats are better, but other than that, the interior hasn't been updated since 2013, and it's simply not good enough for a $1.8 million plus vehicle. But everything else is such an improvement. And compared to other cars in its class, I think the looks are really aggressive, so if you like that style, you're gonna really like this vehicle. And I apologize for being a little disjointed in this review. I'm sort of all over the place. But then again, so is this car. And I think that's the best way to sum it up, because it has a lot of great things going with it. I love the style, I love the engine, I love how fast it is, and I do love the playfulness that you can get if you drive it well enough. But that is the key, you have to be really on it. You have to be a very skilled driver in order to get the maximum fun out of this vehicle. So it's definitely not for everyone. And for the price, well, there are some people that simply can't afford it without some external transfers going on. So, a flawed car in many ways, but I guess isn't that every supercar?
Heute zieh ich meine Runden, seh die Welt in Trümmern liegen, hab 'n Luftballon